This is the Jayden Daniels for the Heisman Special.
Welcome into our Heisman Special, everyone, from Times Square in New York City. I am Michael Cauble. We're all anxiously awaiting to find out if Jayden Daniels will, in fact, become LSU's third ever Tiger to lift the trophy and be declared the most outstanding player in college football. You know, it has been a wild ride for Jayden and this Tiger football team, but most of their success has come on the arms and legs of Jayden Daniels. But let's rewind the clock to some more humbler beginnings when Jayden arrived on campus 2 years ago. If you think about when Jayden first got to campus, there was plenty of doubt about him and his game. Talk about inaccuracy in a run-first and often only approach hung around the ASU transfer.
I don't really pay attention to that type of stuff. I mean, I hear at the end of the day, you know, everybody has cell phones and stuff like that, so it's going to pop up. But just being here, you know, just the main thing is just being the best version of me. If that's a part of my game, you know, running. I mean, it's times where I could stay in there a little bit longer. Something that we've been working on, Coach Kelly, you know, Denbrock, Coach Sloan, with all those type of things. But that's not just me, that's just everybody. You know, they don't want us to lose who we are at the end of the day, what makes us what we are, how we got here. So, I mean, it's just fine-tuning the little things.
And fine-tune they did. The Tigers went to work with Jayden once it was clear he was the starter for that 2022 season.
The old saying is it takes, 10,000 reps to master a skill. You know, we've been dinking with his footwork a little bit here through the spring and then through fall camp in the summer. And I doubt if he's probably got 10,000 reps at it yet. So, I mean, it's an ongoing process. I think what we're trying to garner from getting his lower body right is really the consistency necessary to throw the ball and a little bit more accurately.
But with a shaky offensive line last year, Daniels was still quick to tuck it and run. It was at times a saving grace for LSU, no doubt, and at other times a headache for those who saw the potential of his play.
When we evaluate when he runs, we want to see that if it was within the progression and, you know, it was really good coverage, or maybe that play wasn't great against this coverage, or we got beat at the, you know, a particular position and he got flushed, versus you turn down, you know, a potential high-low read and you took off. Right, and so that's what we're trying to evaluate, and it's really a little bit of both. I think there's still growth there where we can stay a little bit more patient and a little bit more locked in on the progression, and then there are sometimes the really dynamic runs that there was just nothing there and he made something happen. So you want to be careful where you go, hey, you're running too much, and then when he needs to be dynamic, he's not.
It was that controlled aggression that Coach Kelly and company were still trying to figure out, leading to a rare soundbite from a college head coach where Kelly said, hey, let's maybe throw an interception or two along the way.
There's a difference between being on the edge aggressively and being reckless. We're way too conservative right now. I don't want to throw interceptions. That's not what I want to do. I don't want to turn the ball over. We haven't thrown any. But if you're looking to be aggressive, you're going to throw an interception or two because somebody made a great play, because you trust that you're going to throw it in there. And we got to get Jayden to be a little bit more on that edge. With the skill players that we have, we've got to get that ball down the field, and we got to get it into some tight windows sometimes. They're not always going to be wide open, but those guys can make plays, and we got to get them the ball.
The Tigers would get them the ball, and they'd finish the season with 10 wins and then turn their attention to 2023, where it looked like the Tigers had a real shot at competing for the big trophies with all of the talent they had returning. It prompted Brian Kelly to talk about Jayden and the Heisman all the way back in July at SEC Media Days.
You're not going to be in competition for that unless the entire team does well. This is, I know, an individual award, but the individual that usually hosts that trophy has got one of the best, if not the best, team and offense in the country. So understand that he's got to rely on, you know, the entire football team to excel. So what does that mean? That means use your leadership skills. Stay focused on your football team. You do that with that perspective and not put the pressure on yourself to be the Heisman Trophy candidate. It allows you to go play the game the right way.
Well, it certainly looks like Jayden did that this year. Outside of the opener against Florida State, Daniels elevated not only his game, but also those around him. Each week, it seemed that he would make a huge play with his arm or his feet, often both.
Some of the things that maybe don't get the attention was his presence in the pocket and how many times he got hit after delivering, a great throw. Sometimes we cut it off and see the ball in the air, but you don't see the play all the way through, and made some great throws under duress. Those are NFL throws.
But even the NFL has issues at times, Saints. And by the time the Tigers took their second loss of the season, it was clear the offense wasn't LSU's issue.
One's a true freshman. One's playing for his first time in Terrence Welch ever, on the road. I could go on. I mean, we're playing with inexperienced young players, and that's who we have. There's nobody else walking through the door. I mean, we don't have another corner. These are the guys that have to play for us. And we have to continue to develop them, and they have to continue to work at getting better each and every week.
Every opportunity we touch the ball, we need to score. There's 2 drives in the second half where we didn't put up points, and that's unacceptable from my standpoint, from the whole offensive standpoint, because we expect every time we get the ball that we're supposed to score.
Now, that kind of pressure usually bust pipes, but again, Jayden seemed to only get better as the season progressed, and Coach Kelly says it's all due to Daniels' decisiveness.
He fixed a lot of these things. He was not progressing, through his reads. He was coming off them too soon. He wasn't staying in the pocket. He wasn't being patient. He was doing some of the things that get you 80 yards throwing it. And so he's fixed a lot of those things and has put him in a position now where, he's one of the top, if not the top quarterback production-wise in the country.
Everyone else was forced to start looking at Jayden in that same way. His Heisman odds shot through the roof. But following a third loss, Daniels used his final night game in Tiger Stadium to not only keep his name in the race, but break a couple of LSU school records for scoring and yards with an offensive explosion against Florida.
He's the best quarterback in the country. He's the best playmaker in the country. He's the best player. I've watched them all. He is the best player. You can say whatever you want. Well, we're 7-3 and whoever else is undefeated. That doesn't mean anything. What matters is who's the best player. He's the best player. If he didn't win it tonight, he's got to be the leading candidate, because what he did tonight, unless the Heisman is just about popularity, if you want to be the most popular, fine. He's the best player in college football. He did something tonight that no one's ever done. So if that doesn't make you the leading candidate, then maybe the Heisman is not really for the best player. Maybe it's for the most popular player.
Well, that leads us to tonight, where Jayden is one of 4 finalists for the Most Outstanding Player in College Football Award. Now, I will say this. I think Jayden will walk away and be the victor. There's no doubt about this. I just think his resume far outweighs the competition. But let's take a look at the rest of that competition. The 3 other finalists in this one. Jayden is joined by a pair of quarterbacks and a wide receiver. I'm not really sure how Ohio State receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. made it to New York. Probably name recognition and the fact that they had to fill a 4th chair. But Jayden's real competition is going to come from the Pac-12 with Oregon quarterback Bo Nix and Washington quarterback Michael Penix. Both of those QBs faced one another twice this season, with Penix and the Huskies taking both games from the Ducks. And interestingly enough, it's that game that put Jayden in the driver's seat as far as Vegas is concerned, with the odds to win the Heisman Trophy. We'll have more on that in a moment. But how do these competitors stack up? Well, I think the best way to do it is a blind resume test. So let's throw up some numbers and see how it all shakes out. If you look at all 4 players without their team colors or their jerseys, the race tightens up a bit in some categories. But it's also pretty clear who's who if you look at others. Just looking at the raw numbers, it's pretty clear that candidate number 1 excels in most of the main offensive categories, leading in total yards per game, per play, and overall yards. Also out in front in total touchdowns, and way out in a big way, dusting the field in yards after contact. Yeah, it's pretty clear that Jayden Daniels and his ability to be a high-level passer and rusher separates him from every other college football player. Those making the case for Penix or Nix at this point really are probably just arguing about the best player on the best team. But even that argument started to lose water last week when Washington beat Oregon for the 2nd time this season. When we come back, we're talking Heisman history as the show rolls on from Times Square in New York City. We're back after this break.
The Jayden Daniels for the Heisman Special will return shortly.
I just threw it or I ran it. Game day starts at Canes. One love.
Huge highway projects, rush hour slowdowns. Be prepared for the continuing changes by watching Team 2 traffic on WBRZ.
And our traffic forecast can help prevent you from getting stuck on your early morning commute. We save you time by investigating potential issues to avoid on your drive home from work. And we've got you covered on TV and Twitter, along with our updating traffic map and push notifications on the WBRZ app.
Trust Team 2 traffic on WBRZ Channel 2.
With fall fronts and changing temperatures, trust the Storm Station weather app for accurate forecasts this season. Access 7-day forecasts, timely twice-daily blogs, the current radar, and urgent alerts no matter where you are.
Now, back to the Jayden Daniels for the Heisman Special.
Hey, welcome back to Times Square in New York City, everyone. You know, in 2019, it was many of our first trips to New York City and our first taste of this Heisman moment. For those of you not familiar with how the process works, let's get you caught up to speed. So, how do you Heisman? Well, the awards simply ask voters to pick their top 3 choices for the outstanding college football player in the United States. Voting started almost 2 weeks ago on Monday and ran up to this last Monday. So 1 week for roughly 927 voters. That's 870 media members and then the 57 living Heisman winners. So yes, Joe Burrow does get a vote. As for that vote, it's split up regionally to prevent too much bias getting into the selection process. And of course there is bias. I mean, we all think our football's the best, right? There's 6 different regions in the U.S. Each region has 145 media members in it. And in our region, there are 19 voters in just the state of Louisiana. It's a good mix of voters in print and television from North Louisiana all the way down to New Orleans. I'm one of 7 voters from right here in Baton Rouge. We all pick our top 3 choices from across the country. Our first place pick gets 3 points, second 2 points, and third just 1 point. The player with the most overall points wins the trophy. Joe Burrow took home the largest margin of victory, dusting his closest competitor, Jalen Hurts, by almost 2,000 points. The closest vote? Mark Ingram in 2009 won by just 28 points over Stanford running back Toby Gerhart. The award has typically gone to a quarterback. In fact, in the last 20 years, 17 quarterbacks have won the award. The last defensive player to win it, Michigan corner Charles Woodson. That was back in 1997. Tyrann Mathieu, the former Tiger, he was a finalist back in 2011. As for where did the name Heisman come from? Well, the Heisman Trophy is named after legendary coach John Heisman, who coached at 8 different schools in college, including Auburn, Georgia Tech, and Rice. He's credited with helping to evolve the game with rules like breaking the game into quarters, developing the idea of snapping the ball, and even popularizing the forward pass. The trophy doesn't depict Heisman, though. Instead, the 45-pound bronze famous stiff arm was modeled after a 1934 New York University player named Ed Smith. And the first trophy was handed out to a running back from the University of Chicago, Jay Berwanger, back in 1935. Tonight, hopefully Jayden Daniels will become the 88th recipient, joining Billy Cannon and Joe Burrow as LSU's greats that were able to lift the most prestigious individual award in college sports. We're talking Heisman moments when we come back after this break.
The Jayden Daniels for the Heisman Special will return shortly.
'Tis the season to shine and shimmer. Show us your Christmas spirit by sharing the Christmas joy. Submit a video or picture of your festive holiday display. Be creative and fun with your decor. Then go to WBRZ.com or send it to lights@WBRZ.com. Make sure to tune in to WBRZ News 2 at 6 daily to see your featured display on air. Share the Christmas joy with your friends at News 2. Sponsored by Lane Regional Medical Center. Share the Christmas joy.
It just seemed important to me to be able to do something to make sure that children had that new toy.
Drop off an unwrapped toy at any Chick-fil-A or Essential Credit Union location or donate money using the QR code. Now, back to the Jayden Daniels for the Heisman Special.
Welcome back to Times Square in New York City for our Heisman special. If you've been with us all season long, you'll know that every Tuesday night I'm joined by Matt Moscona of After Further Review on ESPN Radio there in Baton Rouge, and On3.com's Shay Dixon, your site for all your LSU recruiting news. We've chopped up LSU's victories, we've talked about their losses, and we've looked ahead to next week's action. Well, let's bring that dynamic duo back and talk a little Heisman talk. Shay, we'll start with you. What was Jayden's Heisman moment, according to you, this season?
I think my Heisman moment has to be Missouri, when you were on the road against a team that ultimately at the end of the season was a top 10 team, and you went into a back and forth affair where he gets banged up, Nussmeier has to come in, and then Daniels comes off the bench hobbling and runs his way, throws his way to 2 more touchdowns. They secure that win. They buckle down on D.
Matt, it's your turn. What was your memorable moment from Jayden this year?
Well, it's the Florida game. After Jayden Daniels and LSU lost to Alabama, I thought he was done for the Heisman race. But when you do something that literally has never been done before in the history of college football, throw for 350, run for 200 in a game, everybody couldn't help but notice.
For one last time, let's get your stumping for Jayden and this Heisman Trophy. Matt, we'll start with you. Why should Jayden be the winner?
When you have a guy like Jayden Daniels who every week continues to do things that are transcendent, the Florida game, following that up with 8 touchdowns, which has only been done once in the history of the SEC, 3,500 passing, 1,000 rushing. Only Johnny Manziel has done that. When you start having those superlative type conversations, you're talking about one player that's not just having a really good season on a good team. You're talking about a player that is starting to transcend the sport, and that's when it becomes pretty obvious. That's what Tim Tebow did. That's what RG3 did. That's what Lamar Jackson did, and that's why they won the Heisman and why Jayden Daniels should win it this year as well.
Shay, you get the last word. Why should Jayden be the one lifting the trophy later tonight?
He's doing things that have never been done before in college football. He could hit 5,000 all-purpose yards. He's in the 3,500 passing, 1,000-yard rushing club. Very few people have ever been in that. And those that are were not only finalists, more than half of them won the trophy. But I'll also go back. If Bo Nix is his biggest competition, 2019, Jayden Daniels was the #1 dual-threat quarterback coming out of high school. Bo Nix was #2. Fast forward 5 years later, they flop schools, divisions, coming to the SEC, going to the Pac-12. Jayden's stats are still better passing and running the football. For a dual-threat quarterback, that's all I need to know.
Hey, great points, both of you. And thanks again for joining us not only tonight, but all season long. You can catch Matt every afternoon from 3 to 6 on 104.5, 104.9 on After Further Review. You can watch that on our cable station, WBTR, there locally in Baton Rouge. And for all of your recruiting news, like I said, nobody does it better than Shay Dixon and company over there on On3.com. Recruiting season really heating up as the portal gets going as well for Brian Kelly and the Tigers. When we come back, we're talking odds. How does Vegas see this one shake down? We'll head back to Baton Rouge and check in with our Best Bets duo for their latest lines and all the action.
The Jayden Daniels for the Heisman Special will return shortly.
With fall fronts and changing temperatures, trust the Storm Station weather app for accurate forecasts this season. Access 7-day forecasts, timely twice daily blogs, the current radar, and urgent alerts no matter where you are.
Now, back to the Jayden Daniels for the Heisman Special.
Welcome back to our Heisman Trophy presentation special from New York City. Now, this Heisman race is unlike Joe Burrow's in that it has had a lot of twists and turns and undefeated teams in the mix. There's the public perception of the race. There's the voters' perception of who is worthy for the trophy. And then there is Vegas. For more on the odds and angles of this Heisman race, let's head back to Baton Rouge for our own best bet duo, Hunter McCann and Michael Shingleton.
If the house always wins, what exactly does Vegas think? Jayden certainly has a commanding lead.
Yeah, Daniels has had a roller coaster of a year when it comes to the odds for Heisman betting, but now he is the heavy favorite. Multiple books are still posting current odds online, with Daniels sitting at minus 1,400, which means you would need to bet $1,400 to win 100. Now, the problem is he's so heavily favored to win that none of the major books even give you the option to bet on the Heisman winner anymore.
Why is that exactly?
Well, it's not uncommon after Heisman votes are submitted for books to stop taking bets, but sometimes if they think it's going to be a tight race, they'll start taking bets later on in the week. But when you get a heavy favorite in a non-game betting item like Daniels tonight to win the Heisman, people who wager large amounts could throw, let's say, $1 million on Jayden to win and win an easy $70,000. Books don't want to give away free money, so they've just stopped taking all bets in situations like this. One thing I do find interesting, though, Mike, is how Jayden's odds to win the Heisman have moved throughout the season. Odds throughout the year depending on two factors, where the public is placing money and what Vegas believes has the best chance of happening. In Vegas's eyes, Daniels' path to New York was sort of a long shot. He started the year at plus 1,400, meaning if you bet $100, you would win $1,400. But after losing to Florida State in the opening game, his odds shot up to 3,500. He clawed his way back, putting up impressive numbers throughout the season. But even after LSU's loss to Alabama, his odds sat at plus 2,700 with just 3 games remaining in the regular season. Now, this is where it gets fun. After 3 impressive outings to end the season, Jayden was plus 135 to win the Heisman, with Nix leading the way at minus 150 when the Pac-12 championship started between Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix. Now, at halftime of that game, after Nix had a rough outing for Oregon, his odds were actually down to plus 150, and Jayden sat at minus 250. By the end of the game, Jayden skyrocketed all the way up to minus 1,400. Penix sat at second at plus 1,000, and Nix moved to plus 1,500.
That was incredible to watch. Of course, we've seen the stats ad nauseum over the past month. Jayden should win this award, but I don't get a vote.
Yeah, neither do I. When it comes to the Heisman every year, the same conversation of regional bias appears. If that truly is a factor this year, it could work out in Jayden's favor with 2 Pac-12 quarterbacks, Bo Nix and Michael Penix, splitting the votes.
I'm so excited to see what happens tonight.
Yeah, me too. And hopefully that kid, Jayden, he's going to be lifting up that 45-pound bronze statue tonight and be the 3rd Tiger to do so in history.
All right, that's it for Best Bets. Let's head back to New York City. Michael?
All right, thanks a lot, fellas. I appreciate you giving us that kind of insight there into this one. Certainly a lot tighter, as we said, than the last time we did this, but we all expect Jayden to walk away with the trophy. We'll find out who's cashing those tickets here in just a couple of hours. When we come back, we'll wrap up our Heisman special.
The Jayden Daniels for the Heisman special will return shortly.
Just seemed important to me to be able to do something to make sure that children had that new toy.
Drop off an unwrapped toy at any Chick-fil-A or Essential Credit Union location, or donate money using the QR code. Now, back to the Jayden Daniels for the Heisman special.
Welcome back, everyone. We're just hours away from finding out if Jayden Daniels will, in fact, be LSU's 3rd ever Heisman winner. Of course, we all hope that to be true. Before we go, let's remind you how you can watch tonight's broadcast. It will be broadcast from the Lincoln Center here in New York. ESPN with the honors. It'll start at 7 o'clock, a little bit of build-up before they actually hand out the hardware. Not expecting to hear Jayden's name called until 7:45. Of course, we'll be back later tonight with another live shot here from New York City and Times Square. Until then, go Jayden and go Tigers.